Yikes. This looks like fun, huh? Let's do an alligator today. So, I was thinking maybe we could do a different letter of the alphabet, and I'll start creating animals for each letter. So today's A, alligator. Check out this bad boy. This is who inspired me. His name is Sherman the Tank. He's a 12-foot alligator and he lives on a golf course in South Carolina. And there's a lot of videos of him on YouTube walking across the golf course. And I thought, oh my gosh, that guy's awesome. This is a close-up of his face. So I'm going to put that right here. And we're going to learn how to draw an alligator. So right now, what you want to go gather is a pencil, an eraser, maybe a marker, like a Sharpie marker. This is what we use in my classroom, but you don't have to use a Sharpie. You can just use a Crayola marker to go over your lines when we're all done, so he'll be black. Now, I'll talk about the coloring part of him later once we're done drawing, but right now, I just want you to go gather a pencil, an eraser, and a piece of paper. Nothing fancy, just go ask your parents if you can get a piece of paper out of the printer. That's what I use. I don't use anything fancy. And then come on back and we will draw. Okay, hopefully you're back. Let's start. So I'm going to erase my alligator up here. And as you can see, I drew a rectangle. Now you aren't going to draw a rectangle on your piece of paper. The rectangle is to represent your piece of paper. So in front of you, I want you to put your paper this direction. This is long. It's called horizontal, but you don't have to remember that word. But long, because that way we have a lot of room for his head. So put your paper down, long, horizontal, and find the middle with your finger, just like I showed you yesterday. So you're just going to find the middle, and you're going to take your pencil. Now I'm going to be working with a marker up here on my whiteboard, but you are going to be drawing with a pencil on the table. So your drawing is going to look a lot better than mine. And as we're drawing today, if you feel like I'm going too fast, just pause the video and catch up. But don't stress too much about making it perfect, okay? So find the middle of your paper with your finger and make a tiny dot. We're going to erase that dot later. It just helps so that we have enough room for his whole head. So Sherman the Tank, that's who we're drawing, the alligator. Right now, if I looked at the middle of this paper, the middle is kind of where his eyes are going to be. So right here, I'm going to start by drawing a large circle on this side. That's going to be the back of his head. So right up here, I'm going to draw a large circle or oval. And then on this side, I'm going to draw a square. So that is going to be the end of his snout. So the difference between an alligator and a crocodile, by the way, is an alligator has a much larger snout. A crocodile has a more pointed snout. So if I look at his snout, it looks more like a box. So I'm going to go way over here, and I'm going to draw a rectangle or square shape over there. So I've got a circle on this side, a square on that side. Now I'm going to connect the two. So if I look here, I notice it slopes down. So I'm going to slope, which just means go on an angle like a slide from the top of his head down to there. And then I'm going to do the same thing from the bottom of the square. I'm going to connect it back here. All right. Now from here, we could actually turn that into a horse or a dragon. There's so many things we could do, but we'll do those another day. So for now, we don't need this box anymore, so we're going to erase the square. You're using your eraser. I'm using my finger. We're going to erase the dot. We don't need that dot in the middle anymore. And we're going to erase the front of the circle here. Okay, let's begin by drawing his nostrils. So when we look at his nose, his nostrils are resting right up at the very top of his snout. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to draw kind of like two rainbows side by side. So I'm going to go up here and draw one rainbow. And I'm going to draw a second rainbow right next to it. That's filling up the space of that old box that we had. Now I don't need the top of the box anymore, so I'm going to erase that. And inside those nostrils, I'm going to draw his nose holes. So I'm just going to draw a little loop and a loop. And then you can color it in later with your marker or with your pencil. You can just put a little light color in there right now. Okay, the next part is we're going to round out the front of his mouth a little bit. If you notice it's a little bit more round, it's not square. So I'm just going to round this a little bit and then erase that. And if you notice, check out how long his mouth is. And you notice it's not straight. His smile goes all the way back to here. And it's a little wibbly wobbly. Kind of reminds me of like a roller coaster when you're on a roller coaster. So I'm going to start here in the middle, and I'm going to go a tiny bit up. I'm going to curve it back down. I'm going to go back up and down all the way to the back. Now we're going to go up here and we're going to create his eyes. Now in this picture, this is a photograph, so this is an original photograph of him, but I'm going to kind of cutify him and make him a little bit more cartoony. So I'm not going to give him those small eyes. I'm going to make his eyes a little larger. So I'm going to go up here and copy what I just did here up here on his eyes. So I'm going to make a rainbow and then another rainbow right next to it. So this rainbow is going to be a little bit larger because it's in front. So the front eye would be a little bit bigger than the back eye because it's in front. I'm going to erase the head out of the eye. We don't need that anymore. And then I'm going to add one curve right here. So that is kind of the top, the bridge of his snout. So from here, let's work on just one eye at a time. So in here, I'm just going to draw the lower eyelid. That would be this part right here on his eye. And a very large rainbow curve. I'm going to do the same thing on that side. I'm going to draw his lower eyelid on this side. And a large rainbow curve on that side. Now at this point, we're going to make him look kind of happy, but later I'm going to show you a trick for making him look more angry. So I'm going to draw a pupil. Our pupil is the black dot in our eye. And I'm going to put a little bit of shading in his pupil with my pencil. Well, you'd be using a pencil, I'm using a marker. And do you notice how I left a little white spot up at the top? That's the little shiny light in his eye. You can color the whole thing in black, either way. Now for the teeth. We're going to give him one large tooth right here underneath that nostril. Then I'm going to skip a space over here and give him his second. There's his first fang. I'm going to give him his second fang right here, and I'm noticing it's under his other nostril. And do you notice I'm just kind of making the letter V? I see that he's got some smaller teeth and then another big tooth right here. So I'm going to give him another big tooth and then maybe a couple small ones in between. Now the next part we're going to notice is the back of his head. This guy, he's got a huge head. Look at how big his back is. It goes all the way behind his eye. So I'm going to make sure that I extend this all the way off the edge of the paper. And then look underneath here where his chin is, where his neck is. I want to show you this original photo that I had. Look at how big his neck is, how it curves down right there. So we want to make sure that we extend his neck off the edge of the paper. And then did you notice the texture on his neck? Look at that. So it's lighter here, it's a little darker there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a separate line here. And then I'm just going to draw kind of like a swooping smile curve along the bottom. And if you have ever seen a snake, it looks very similar the underside of their neck. So I'm just drawing that texture a little bit simpler. All right, Now we don't need this line anymore, so we're going to erase this line. Get your eraser and erase that line. And then we're going to add just a wider jaw on the back here. Do you notice how I just kind of swooped it up a little bit farther behind the neck? All right, guess what? We're almost done. The only thing we need are the spikes on his back of his neck and his back right there. Can you kind of see those in there? So I'm going to add those right here. And guess what? Our alligator is already done. Now, I promised you that I would show you a trick for making him look angry. So right now he's looking kind of cute and happy. That's the way I drew mine here. But let's say you wanted to change him up a little bit. And you wanted to look a little bit more mean. So watch my eyes. When I am angry, this is like my normal resting eyes. But watch what happens to my face when I'm angry. Do you notice how my eyes go down in the middle? Like this. So if you want your alligator to look angry, you're going to have to change the angle of the top of the eye. Now I call that a V eye. So what I'm going to do is erase a little part of the eye here and here, and I'm going to put the letter V in there. Now look what happens to his eye. The minute I put the letter V in, it changes the shape of his eyes. So we can go from a very happy-eyed character to a more angry-looking eye just by adding the letter V to the eyes. So already he looks a lot different. So I'm going to let you decide which way you want your alligator to look. And now I'm going to talk to you about coloring. So how did I color this? Did I use anything expensive? No. I dug around in my crayon box, which is just an old shoe box that has all these leftover crayons in it. And I pulled out yellow and green. Now I'm showing you a lemon lime green, a light green, but guess what? I didn't use this. I didn't see it in the bottom of my shoe box. I only had yellow and green when I first started. So I scribbled yellow all over my alligator, and then I colored green over it. Do you notice it's a little lighter down here? That's because I pushed harder with my green all over the face. The other thing is, I want you to notice the texture. Do you know what texture is? Texture is something that you want to reach out and touch. I want you to notice the texture. Do you want to know how I did that? So I took my drawing outside and I found a really bumpy surface on the ground, and I laid my piece of paper, which I had just drawn in pencil first, then I went over it with my Sharpie marker. Then I erased my pencil lines. Now I took it outside with my crayon. I'll show you the crayon I used. Where did it go? Here, see this big chubby crayon? I went over this drawing on top of the ground. So I found a bumpy surface on the pavement and I laid my paper down. You could also do the side of your house. If you go outside and the side of your house is kind of bumpy, you can use that also. And I just scribbled my crayon over the bumpy surface. And check out the texture. It kind of looks like a real alligator. So that's how I did my alligator. I hope you had fun today and learning how to draw an alligator. And if you did like my drawing, will you please give it a thumbs up? That's down at the bottom of my screen. And also subscribe, because I'm thinking if you're liking this, I want to keep doing it. So I hope you had fun learning how to make an alligator, and I will see you next time.